A leaning tower, a former great capital, water towns, and a Republican mausoleum. All of these things are neatly packed into this one Chinese province that used to be at the heart of the Chinese civilization, Jiangxi. Hi, my name is Sebastian and you're watching 7 Facts. Jiangxi is a province steeped in history. It was once the hotbed for communist activity in China, and way before that, Taoism was born here. It's the source of the best Chinese porcelain and contains some natural beauties that even UNESCO recognized. And yet, I bet this is the first time you've ever heard of this place. Which is of course a pity. After all, Jiangxi is home to 47 million people. Obviously, it's gonna have lots of interesting facts hiding within its borders. So, did I catch your attention? Good, then it's time for a short history lesson. Jiangxi was not an original Chinese province, and by that I mean it wasn't under the control of early Chinese civilizations. But as we already know, the first Chinese dynasties formed powerful states in East Asia, and Jiangxi was gradually engulfed a long time ago, as in 2,000 to 3,000 years ago. Its ancient history is fascinating and worth studying, but we can't really go into a lot of details here. Instead, let's focus on much more recent events. After the Qing dynasty fell in 1912, Jiangxi quickly became a hotbed of early communists in China. And as such, Jiangxi became the scene of the first military engagement between the communists and nationalist forces during the 1927 Nanchang uprising. It was the start of a bloody struggle, the infamous Chinese Civil War. The communists eventually hid in the mountains of Jiangxi and fought back. In 1931, Jiangxi became the independent Chinese Soviet Republic. Its capital, Ruijin, is known to this day as the former Red Capital. 1934 was the year the Chinese communists were completely encircled but broke through the lines, beginning their infamous long march from Jiangxi to the north. So, for the Chinese Communist Party, Jiangxi's symbolism cannot be understated. I do need to mention that these battles were not just ideologic nor symbolic. From 1930 to 1936, due to violence, political cleansing, and brutal fights, Jiangxi's population dropped by 40%. So, not exactly an idyllic era. You probably had no idea that Nanchang is the capital city of Jiangxi. That's okay, you're probably not alone. For the Chinese, however, this city is a pretty big deal. Well, for the communists at least. You see, Nanchang was the place where the military banner of the People's Liberation Army was first raised and the first shots against the nationalist government were fired. It's also where China's first airplanes, missiles, and motorcycles were built. Nanchang, though, was established in 202 BC, so aside from the facts I just mentioned, there's of course a whole lot more to discover. Its 6.5 million inhabitants benefit from all the modern amenities we're used to, but the city also boasts a special relationship with its greenlands and natural sceneries, a fact that's probably owed to Taoist influences. In any case, Nanchang is historic and modern and green. That's a pretty great combination in my book. There are 2 places in the world considered to be the birthplaces of Taoism: Mount Qingcheng in Sichuan and Mount Longhu in Jiangxi. Longhu is said to be not quite like a journey to heaven, but it's pretty close. Ancient tombs, temples, and Taoist relics dot the landscape, a landscape, by the way, that is something to behold, with dozens and dozens of peaks, waterfalls, and rolling hills. This is the residence of celestials and blessed earthly abode, so for all intents and purposes, this is Holy Land. According to the record of Taoism, in the middle of the East Han dynasty, Zhang Daoling, the first Daoshi or Taoist priest, started to distill elixirs at this historic mountain originally named Mount of Splendid Clouds. As the elixirs were made, a dragon and a tiger would appear, hence the name Longhu, or Dragon and Tiger Mountain. Unfortunately, I'm not an expert on this religion, so I'll definitely need to research more, but for now, just remember the importance of this place. One of the most famous and sought-after products of China was its porcelain. In fact, it was such a high-valued and popular ware that it became synonymous with the country. To this day, high-quality porcelain items are colloquially known as China, and the source for this high-quality product was located in Jiangxi. The city of Jingdezhen has been the center of Chinese porcelain production for 1,000 years. The thing wasn't invented here, of course, but by the Ming Dynasty, the finest porcelain wares China produced came from this single city. It was also during this time that Chinese porcelain art styles arrived in Europe and Asia, gaining a lot in popularity, and most of them arrived in the West from this city. These weren't just useful kitchenwares, but true works of art, symbols of eloquence and royalty. To this day, Jingdezhen remains the center of Chinese porcelain and a source of Chinese national pride. So you crossed half the world to see an entirely different landscape and experience a new culture. And that's all nice and well until you end up in Guling. In this resort town, you might all of a sudden feel strangely at home. If you're European, that is. Guling is a tourist center of the Mount Longhu National Park, but in the past it was a European resort built by Christian missionaries. It was developed in 1886 as a small retreat for foreigners who wanted to escape the summer heat. The name Guling is actually a pun. The resort is wonderfully cooling in the summer, a word that sounds conveniently Chinese, so it was easily adopted by the locals. Edward Selby and 4 other Methodist missionaries obtained a lease from the government, and pretty soon a full-on Euro-American town was born in the midst of Imperial China. So Guling was a pretty obvious symbol of Western interference in China, which is probably why Guling is no longer leased by European missionaries, but it still is a very popular mountain resort. A much more Chinese-looking region of Jiangxi is the county of Wuyuan, famed for having the most beautiful villages in the whole of China. Or so they like to think, and I can't say they're very wrong. Wuyuan is a place of numerous historic sites, secluded villages, and strange and hidden caves. Aside from agriculture, tourism is the main source of income in these parts, and if you've been looking at your screen, you can kinda see why. There are literally hundreds of 1,000-year-old buildings here, charming historic villages, all set in a natural environment that would make even Switzerland jealous. Out of all the places I showed you from China, this is the one where I'd like to retire. Wouldn't you? That was all for today's episode. I hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to like and subscribe before you leave. Leave your comments downstairs, and if you wish to do so, you can help out this channel through my Patreon page. I do hope to see you next time. Bye.